Great pleasure to be here. I'm very happy to see you all today. As Dan mentioned, I'm going to be talking about one of my areas of research is related to what's called anarchy or anarcho-capitalism. A more positive way of stating it would be studying interaction without the state or studying private alternatives to government. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Before I begin, let me just ask a few questions to you all. And the first question is, what would happen if we did not have government? Imagine a world without government. What are some things that you think of? What are some things that most people think of? Most people think of things like Lord of the Flies. Lord of the Flies did not have government. The children landed on an island, and they were very, very mean to each other. What are some other things that you think of? Mad Max, Beyond Thunderdome. If anybody saw this, this is post-apocalyptic society where everybody's walking around chasing each other, even just to go get gasoline, you're getting chased by all these mean people. Certainly not a very nice society to live in. Or the Wild West, okay? If you don't have government, you're going to have gunfights and people slinging their guns and getting in bar brawls, terrible, unfriendly things that people may do. Another thing that people think about if you don't have government, the Hatfields and the McCoys. I don't know how many of you heard this story, but apparently the two families, one family did one thing, the other family said, we're going to get back at you, and then there was just this constant battle for ages. Or another thing, anarchists. We don't have government, we're going to have people wearing black masks, destroying things, destroying Wendy's. The worst thing you could imagine. So the basic position outlined famously by John Locke and many other people. John Locke, the 17th century philosopher, wrote, "In the state of nature, so without government, there wants an indifferent judge with authority to determine all differences according to established law. For everyone in that state being both a judge and an executioner, and with men being partial to themselves, passion and revenge is very apt to carry them too far." So the idea is you need this third-party arbiter to solve disputes, otherwise you're going to have chaos. Okay, so what's the issue? Chaos is bad. Most people can agree on that. Maybe Dan might be an exception, but most people believe that chaos is bad. So the proposed solution is a government monopoly over the use of force. Okay, so that's why we have the police. A friendly policeman here to protect us with their pretty uniforms. Hey, John. They're beautiful animals here to be our friends. We've got justice, blind justice. The courts, they don't care about either side. They just want to close their eyes, weigh justice, and come down on the side of what is truly right. We've got our friendly justices who would not want to be friends with such kind-looking and caring people, such as these. Here is a postage stamp. It says, "World peace through law." All we need is just more law, and we can have more peace. It's really a great situation. We've got the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine here to protect us with Army values such as loyalty, their true faith and allegiance to the U.S. Constitution, the Army, your unit, and other soldiers. Service, put the welfare of the nation, the Army, and your subordinates before your own. respect, treat people as they should be treated, honor, live up to all Army values, integrity, do what's right, legally and morally. And this is what creates and gives us our beautiful way of life that we have today. So thank you very much. It's been great to see you all. Okay, oh wait, all right, I do have I think you wanted me to speak a little bit longer, so I'll show the rest of my slides. I do want to ask, as an economist, okay, we always want to say, well, on one hand, on the other hand, I do want to ask, is this the complete picture? Is this all that government does? Do they do other things as well? Well, some things, sometimes government does things which look to be a little bit more violent. This is a famous picture from a few years ago. This kid named Elian Gonzalez. Other times, they do things which are even more violent. For those of you who heard of this, there was a compound in Texas where there was these cult members, and unfortunately, they kind of got all killed. It's controversial, but there was government tanks involved. And I'm not exactly sure what this government official was thinking. Her name is Janet Reno, but I've been trying to interpret her body language, and somehow this means, I am not a nice person. Be afraid. Other things government does. Police brutality. Sometimes hitting people. Sometimes shooting people. Sometimes shooting innocent people in peaceful rallies on college campuses. Where I went to college in Worcester, Massachusetts, they actually had this on their courthouse, which said, obedience to law is liberty. Obedience to law is liberty, which sounds pretty Orwellian to me, the idea that we're going to submit to the state and that's going to be our freedom. In addition to the police and the courts, oftentimes imposing certain political agendas on people, we have the army, which, as we have seen in many times in history, has imposed many coercive policies on the public. They've gotten into wars. They've gotten many countries into wars. In many cases, government kills lots and lots of people. Okay. So I want to point out the following statement is just because something is important, it doesn't follow that we should have government provided. Okay? Just because something is important, does it follow that we should have government provided? So let me put forward the following argument. Food is very important. We all need food. If we didn't have food, we would die. So it follows that government should provide it, right? Okay. Most people would say no. Because food is so important, government should not monopolize the food industry. Okay, this is what we saw when government monopolized the food industry in Eastern Europe, Soviet Union. There were shortages. Okay, you show up and you would be lucky if you could get something. In contrast with markets, you don't go to the market and see these empty shelves and say, what can I get? And in contrast with the market, and by the way, I should tell you, I'm making light of that. There was actually a lot of people who died during this time. But I do want to point out that in contrast with markets, we have this plethora of food, great things. I'm not into, well, growing up was not into organic food. Now all of a sudden I'm going to Whole Foods and I just totally sold. I'm like amazed every time I go in there. That's like any kind of food I could imagine. And there's not one type, there's hundreds of types of these foods. It's just amazing. Okay, so I think food is so important